You're still watching the AM show. Now, what do you know about the National Strategy for Public Sector Reforms? We want to tell you more. Joining me in the studio for that conversation is Mr. Habib Adam. He's Senior Economist and Office of the Senior Presidential Advisor at the Public Sector Reforms. And we also have Edmond Cheyu, and he's the Acting Director for the Planning and Monitoring and Evaluation at DVLA. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me start with you, Mr. Habib Adam. Tell us briefly about what your office has been engaged in for the past 7 years. I mean, in respect to this reform, public sector reform strategy and its implementation.
Well, the office, formerly the Senior Minister's Office, I would say basically has been the engine of the government, involved in several high-profile projects and policy making. But usually we don't report on some of them because they have line ministries. Because we handle issues like the Energy Sector Recovery Program. We started it, the harmonization of the TVET. The TVET, it also came from the Ghana Beyond Aid and several other high-profile things that we handle. But that was just behind the scene. But on the national public sector reforms, we started that policy, the drafting of the document somewhere in 2017, just when the government came in. Some processes were already in place when the government came in. I mean, the previous government had started something, but it was not complete. So when the government came in, they decided to look at it. And then they realized that they needed to improve upon the document by bringing in the private sector. You know, the NPP government always started itself as a friend of the private sector. And so we look at it and review the entire government with the help of some industry players. We had some of the University of Ghana Business School, JIMPA, AGI, that's the Association of Ghana Industries, Chamber of Commerce, Private Enterprise, because we wanted to marry both the academia, the private sector, and government. So at the end of the day, we are able to come up with a policy that addresses all the various sectors. And that's exactly what happened.
So this policy, this framework, this strategy is a result of all the engagement you have done and the revision that you did to the old document.
Absolutely. So it was endorsed somewhere in August 2018 by the president.
True. And what about you from the DVLA? What were some of the issues confronting the DVLA which resulted in the participation or involvement in this project implementation? Mr. Cheyu. Okay. Did I get your name right? Cheyu.
Yes, the name is Cheyu.
Cheyu, okay.
So thank you so much. I want to use this opportunity to say a very good morning to your cherished listeners, to our board chairman, lawyer Frank Davis Esquire, and our chief executive, Mr. Kwesi Ajimambuzia, for what they have been doing for DVLA. Yes, so to start with, the DVLA developed a strategic plan in 2021, and it was hinged on 3 thematic areas of people, process, and technology. So from the people point of view, we realized there were some capacity issues and the testing and licensing of drivers for heavy goods carrying vehicles. So we developed a proposal seeking support from the Public Sector Reform Secretariat. And then we also noticed that there were some capacity gaps in some areas like IT, because part of the strategy was also to go digital. And we had some programs in the digital space where we had to improve the competence of our staff and that. And then we also did another study that revealed that some of our processes were too long. If you pick vehicle registration, for instance, there were about 13 processes an applicant had to go through to complete a vehicle registration process, for instance. And that took about 6 hours. So management felt that we needed to cut that down drastically. So part of the projects we submitted to the public sector reform, one of them was to improve vehicle registration time from 6 hours to about 1 hour.
What's the duration now?
The duration now is about...
Have you been able to reduce from 6 hours?
In fact, we've been able to reduce it significantly to 2 hours, but we haven't met our target yet, so we are still working to...
Right. You mentioned people, technology, process and technology. So let me throw this to you, Mr. Adam. In terms of this reform, I mean, in terms of digitalization, human resources and public service delivery, what are the major reforms that have been introduced? Just give us a highlight of those.
Yes, so key among them is the digitalization that he has mentioned. So, we're handling initially about 16 entities. And then later on, it was reduced to about 13. And what we did was to make sure to retool all of them in terms of equipment, and then also bring in on board certain softwares or programs that can help the service delivery. And
like
that's what?
I'm trying to get to the details. What program, for example, did you bring to solve that? Okay,
so in most of the, we were the implementing agency. And so the various entities came with their, so like for instance, like the DVLA.
Yeah.
We have this electronic reporting tool that we developed for them. We also have this mobile app. You understand? Then you can go in through your mobile phone. You can do the registration, get all your details, and submit to them, and then you get the appointment. And then also looking at there's another one that we are doing for them, which is the what's the name? The one that it tells you about when you're supposed to come in. I think that one is still under development. The
queue management?
The queue management system.
Okay.
So that when you have to go in to take your biometric or any of this, you don't have to.
You don't a large number of people.
You wait until. And some of the agencies like the OECS, Public Services Commission, we gave them video conferencing because usually they used to have their interviews in person. So whether you are abroad, you are in Hamley, you are in Tamale, if you have to attend an interview, you have to come to Accra. And this was causing a lot of inconveniences. But with the kind of equipment that we provided for them, they're able to do all of that remotely. So that now it doesn't matter if you have an appointment, you have to come to the Public Services Commission, whether you are in Europe or wherever, it can be done online. And that's what we've done for most of them. And then for Ministry of Transport, we digitalized their records, because they had a lot of issues with their records. So we give them the equipment to be able to digitalize all of them. Even in our own office, we did the same thing. Yeah, these are some of the
And these are what you are doing. Are you able to assess how the public is receiving it, or if they have feedback for you? Or let me just say, you've been doing this for 4 to 5 years now.
Yeah.
Have you been able to achieve your targets, and what's the response from the public who use these services?
Well, I mean, you'll be the best judge. I mean, for now, everybody can see what has happened at the DVLA. Passport office, yes, we're able to provide a lot of equipment. And through that, though there are still challenges, but at least now people don't have to wait for 6 months before you go and do your biometric capture. We've reduced all of that to somewhere around 1 month or even less sometimes before you can do. So across board, BDR, BFM devs, we also provide them equipment, help them to synchronize their data, which was still in silos. So across all the agencies, that's what we've done. They brought their the activities, and then we finance them.
What about middlemen? Was it part of your objectives to remove the middlemen who charge exorbitant prices to fast-track these processes for you? Well, was it part of your overall plan?
Yeah, yes, the overall plan. Because when you digitize, that human intervention is cut off. So for DVLA, for instance, I'm not sure these days you hear about the Guru boys now. You don't hear much about Guru boys now.
Not much, but they're still there.
Yeah, but it's still a work in progress. Right. And then when you come to passport office, that one has to do somehow. You understand? So BEF and DEV to the same thing. So it's still work in progress. Most of the equipment and some of the software that we provided for them, those things are still work in progress. A lot of people are still not aware of those things. They still think that before they can access those services, they still have to go through the Guru boys. And that is why we are doing all this sensitization to ensure that you don't need to go through any Guru boy to go and access the services of BEF and DEV, DVLA, or even the passport office.
Right.
You go online, you can access some of those things directly, and they will tell you when you should come for your biometric capture. So the problem is just the lack of information for many people. They still believe that you still have to go through the Guru boys, but most of them have been cut out.
Mr. Cheyo, let me come to you now. Was there some training or capacity building workshops and development programs provided for the DVLA? I mean, whether before the implementation, during, and in the process, is there anything like that to keep the human resources up to speed on how to properly implement this new strategy?
Yeah, so like I indicated at the beginning, the people aspect, we realized some capacity gaps, and we had to bring in some consultancy from Sweden.
Swiss Roads.
Yes. And they took our technical staff through vehicle.
Is it a Ghanaian company?
No, it's a foreign company,
Okay.
actually. But Ghanaian companies were also allowed to bid because it's a World Bank project. It was open to the world, and we picked the best.
Okay.
So we were able to train over 60 technical staff of our staff in the area of driver testing and licensing for higher occupancy vehicles. That's the category D and F. And then also we train them on how to test and license those heavy goods carrying vehicles. It was a training designed to cover both technical and non-technical staff. We also train our IT staff because of our reform agenda to digitize all our operations. So we have information technology management training. We also train people in leadership. We train people in financial management.
Okay.
We train people in project management, monitoring and evaluation. In fact, it was holistic. It covered almost all the sectors in the organization.
Tell me about DEMOPS and the tertiary drive initiative being implemented at the DVLA, and how is that, helping you?
Yeah, so these two projects were some of the new initiatives rolled out by the authority to bring our services to the doorsteps of the general public.
What's DMOPS short
So
for?
DMOPS is DVLA mobile service.
Okay.
And we target corporate institutions, we target organizations, we target any organized group. The only criteria we need is a minimum of 20 people. Then our vans equipped with all the testing and licensing will be brought to your doorstep, and we can offer all the driver licensing services from new license to upgrading to renewal, replacements.
So when an institution is able to mobilize at
minimum.
least 20 people,
Yes.
DVLA has a van equipped with all
a team, yes.
Okay, to come to you and
just
help
under
you
the
with
project.
all the registration, renewal,
Yes.
and everything that you. That's a good.
So we can
initiative.
come to Joy FM and render the service to you if we can get the minimum number of 20 for us.
How much do you pay for that?
It's just, it depends on the service. All our activities, the fees are approved by Parliament, and depending on the service you apply for, we just pick the approved rate that has been given to us by Parliament.
But how much are you paying for it?
For which of the services?
Let's say if we call you from here as Joy News, we say come
Yes.
and help us. We've mobilized 30 people. How much should we charge us for that?
30 people, if you pick something like renewal of driver's license or replacement, you will not spend more than 300 cedis.
Each or for the entire team?
Each.
Okay.
It's on a person by person. So you need to multiply the rate by the number of people.
What's the difference between that and if you actually go to DVLA? Just for clarity.
Yeah, the difference is not much. In fact, at the DVLA, we also have all our services categorized, so it's not different. When you come to DVLA now, you can apply for what we call standard service. We have the premium service and we have prestige service. So when we come to your environment, we treat it under the premium category. But at the office, you have the opportunity to even select the standard, which is much lower.
Right.
In fact, the standard is just the lowest, premium is the second, and then the prestige is the highest. But it depends on what you select. Yes.
Yeah. So, Mr. Adam,
Yes.
have you identified any challenges in this new strategy yet? And if so, how are you fixing those gaps?
Yes, just before I come to that, I just want to add that, you know, the vans that he spoke about, those vans were procured under the project, and then together with the equipment. And not only the DVLA, for BDR, I also give them about 120 motorbikes, about 10 pickups, so that they can go to the remotest part of Ghana. And you can see that all of them, they have improved their service. They're able to reach out to the
You said about how many motorbikes?
120.
In Accra or in
across,
all
for
16
the institution.
regions?
No, for the institution. Then they distributed across the various regions that were lacking in some of them. You understand? To the challenges, you know, no system is a perfect system. And so we actually had challenges. First is that the number of institutions that we have, entity we have to handle, about 16 initially before it came down to 13. Even the World Bank admits that it was one of the most complex projects they've ever handled. They've never had one project management unit handling about 16 entities. And so that structure alone from the beginning was a challenge. Then apart from that, there was also issue of, you know, the civil service or the public sector. Sometimes, you know, we're having the project implementation units in the various entities. But the problem with the public sector is that sometimes, you know, they move them around. So today you have one team representing, let's say, DVLA. And then the next time you are meeting them, it's a completely different team. And one institution, I don't want to mention, but maybe let's say passport office. Sometimes you meet today, then the next time you are meeting, most of the people in that unit will have gone on posting outside, and you understand. So we had that challenge of attrition, people changing. And when you are implementing a project like this, you need consistency. People need to be So these were some of the challenges. And also... So
how did you fix that? Or how do you plan to, you know, fix those gaps?
Yes,
are you going to ask them, you know, these officers to stop transferring people?
No, yes, we try as much. In fact, actually, the project has come to an end.
Right.
Last June. But we're still doing the finishing part. So we try as much as possible to be to handle some of them. We spoke to the ministers where a minister was involved, or to the agency CEOs to get people to be consistent. And also the problem of procurement too. The laws in Ghana says that beyond a certain limit, it has to go to central tender. And the central tender means that the whole of Ghana, when you have certain amount exceeding maybe a certain amount, it has to go to the center, and that means they have to wait until they meet, and sometimes it was difficult. So you could have your project being halted or the process being halted because of approval from Central Tender Committee. And so these were some of the challenges that we face. Apart from the fact that, I mean, naturally, we also have some other in-house issues in terms of management. So
right. You mentioned, Mr. Chair, you mentioned that this is a World Bank partnership initiative.
Yes.
And so I'm tempted to ask, do you think these reforms measure up to global best practices or global standard in terms of the new strategy that you've just implemented? Do they measure up to global standards? Let me throw that to you. I'll come to you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. So obviously, once you are handling a World Bank project, you know, they have the standard is across the world. So you don't expect that what you do here in Ghana should be substandard to those being done outside. So we followed through the same process, and all the things that we did were according to world standard. According to that,
Mr. Chair.
Yes, I just want to add that our vision is to be a world-class organization in providing driver and vehicle license and services. So everything we do, we benchmark what is happening in other parts of the world. And also to let you know that the DVLA is now ISO certified.
And what?
ISO.
Right.
Certified, and it deals with standards that are recognized globally, and it's comparable to any part of the world. So international standards, yes, that's just to answer your question.
Okay, so my final question to you would be, how are you ensuring that the public really understand these reforms and can make the most out of it, so that it's not just a policy or a strategy that ends up in a document, but, you know, we're actually exploiting it to the fullest of our abilities? Mr. Adam?
Yes, so that is why we have that, the last bit, the component of sensitization and then informing the public about what has happened at the various agencies. That's what I mentioned earlier, that nowadays when you want to acquire driving license, passport, you don't need to go through the Guru Boy. You can go to their website, you have all of that, you have all the information that you need, and that can help you. And also, what we also did was to ask the entities, because this is a World Bank project. When the project comes to an end, how do you maintain, how do you sustain the gains you have made? So we developed those plans, the plan after the World Bank, what with the continuity plans, you understand? So that all the agencies were were made to be able to continue the same process even after the project ends. And so we're going to continue with this education, this sensitization, to continue to educate the public, for them to be aware of the improved services that are available by the various public entities.
Mr. Chair, is this sustainable?
Yeah, it's very sustainable, like my colleague indicated. For us, we had our plans even before we submitted the proposals to the World Bank for support. So if you pick the reduction in registration time from 6 hours to 1 hour, we had a plan in place. And we just went for the support to be able to fast track it. So part of it was to digitize all the operations which we had started. We digitized over 1.6 million vehicle records, and we had equipment to do that. We also enhanced the capacity of our staff to do the work, and the training they did for us. To make sure it is sustainable, we are developing what we call a learning management system. We have set up a training unit now at the DVLA to provide constant, regular training to our staff to be able to ensure that we don't slack when the
to make sure that you don't slack. Yes. Right. What will be your final word, Mr. Habib Adam?
Yes, so my final words would be, the National Public Sector Reform, it was a very complete reform from the ministry agencies all the way to the MMDAs. But what we implemented the last 4 years was the Public Sector Reform for Resource Project, which was just a small component of the entire document. You understand? A small component of the entire document. So that's a phase one, because the World Bank had given us the resources to see how we could implement, how the first phase will go, and then we look at the second phase where we can even bring in more donor partners to support the program.
When does that start? The second phase. Have you started the project?
No, we've just finished the first one, so we are now trying to finalize all the reports and then submit it, and then we'll make a case for the second. Yes. Right. So there's a hope that in the second portion we have a lot more agencies coming on board. So what we need is just the resources. So once we are done with we submit the reports and we have the negotiation continues, and hopefully by next year, I'm sure that we'll get a lot more funding to continue.
Okay. Mr. Edmond Cheyu, your final words.
Yes, so I just want to add my voice to what Habib has said. The Public Sector Reform for Resource Project is a very good initiative, and we want to learn or advocate for it to be continued, the phase 2, to be implemented. And this time around, they should rope in more public sector organizations, because the resource has helped DVLA to achieve a massive. We have improved significantly, won so many awards because of the initiatives we have implemented with the support we receive. And we just want it to be continued for many more public sector institutions to be roped on board.
And that there is Mr. Edmond Cheyu, the Acting Director for the Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Department of DVLA. And we also have Mr. Habib Adam, Senior Economist, Office of Senior Presidential Advisor, Public Sector. And this conversation was on the National Public Sector Reform Strategy and the work that they have done and how they're ensuring that public sector and like the DVLA, for example, is more efficient and you can get your things done easier and faster. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.